We'll call the regular meeting of the Paramount City Council to order. Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be led by Pathways Hospice Explorers, an invocation by Pastor Ken Corver of Emmanuel Reformed Church. All please rise.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Chelsea Espinoza, and these are volunteers from Paramount High School. Please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be a part of this city. I oftentimes will drive people around the city just to let them see the beauty of this community. And right here with our council and our staff for 40 years, thank you for this beautiful city I live in and the sacrificial work you all do. It's been phenomenal. So I just want to say thank you. Lord, we thank you for what's happened in Paramount. Once called a disaster site, Rand Corporation called this city a disaster site, and we thank you now that it's been called an all-American city. So thank you for the cooperation of the schools and the government, the working of the church and the business community and the neighborhood groups and the civic groups and the police and the fire and the council and the staff. We're humbled by what you've done. We say thank you for what you've done. We pray that it could continue. We thank that we could keep having servants right here in this room, servants who constantly are looking out for the well-being of the entire city. So would you unify us? Would you give us humility? And we just thank you for a city staff that's second to none. Thank you for what they've done ongoing. We're humbled by it. Would you bless each one of them? Would you bless this council? And would you allow us to make decisions tonight that honor you, please you, serve everyone, and display the way that you work? And we pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Guillen,
Here.
Councilmember Lemons,
Here.
Councilmember Olmos,
Here.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer, Mayor Hansen.
Here. Tonight we have some presentations. If the council please join me. Good evening, everyone. Well, good, and thank you for being here tonight. Tonight we have some presentations to make, most of which are proclamations focusing on October as a spotlight month for special issues. But first, I'd like to recognize the members of Pathways Teen Medical Explorer Program for Paramount High School who were kind enough to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pathways provides hospice care in this area. They also have this program where high school students help out at Lakewood Regional Medical Center. They run test results back and forth from the emergency room, change beds in various sections, bring socks or blankets to patients, restock supplies, and much more. Many of them hope to enter the medical field, and this gives them a great look at working in a hospital. If the group would please come up, because we'd like to have a whole group photo, please. Jennifer Wilson from the Susan G. Coleman Organization, please join us.
Is his microphone on?
Oh, better turn it on. It works better, huh? Hi there. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, an annual campaign that brings attention to the awareness, prevention, early detection, and treatment of this disease. It also stresses the importance of follow-up treatment. Since 1982, the Susan G. Komen Organization has become the world's largest nonprofit source of funding for the fight against breast cancer. This work has helped reduce deaths in this area by 40% and has made the pink ribbon a symbol known throughout the world. As you might have noticed, many of us around here tonight are wearing pink to show our support. Tonight, as we proclaim Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Paramount, we give our proclamation to Jennifer. And Jennifer, oh, there. Proclamation, would you like to say a few words?
Good evening, City of Paramount. What you are looking at in front of you, I'm an ambassador for Susan G. Komen as well as a spokesperson and have been since 2010 when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I am a product of the free mammograms offered by Susan G. Komen, which also helped save my life, which is why I'm able to stand here today before you and receive this proclamation. So I thank you all so much for your continued support and working with us and spreading the word and raising awareness. So thank you all tonight. We appreciate and we are very acceptance of this proclamation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to add one little thing to this, too. I believe it's next month, the 60-mile walk down in San Diego. My daughter, my son-in-law, one of my daughter-in-laws, and a couple of their friends are scheduled to walk in that for the third time. And that's quite a deal. It's a 3-day deal, and I know the first time they went, they all came back with a lot of blisters that they had to have taken care of. But that's the third time that they've done that, so it's pretty interesting. Okay. Oh, please welcome Captain David Springle from the Lakewood Sheriff's Station, Paramount's Acting Lieutenant Pasquale Aurelio, and Paramount Sergeant Ed Sanchez of the Paramount Special Assignment Officers. Our next October proclamation is National Crime Prevention Month, which focuses on the importance of keeping our community safe and secure. This promotes crime prevention programs, collaboration, positive opportunities for young people, and much more. It also highlights the city's strong, successful relationship with our law enforcement partners, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. We're getting them all up here. Cool. During this month, Sheriff's personnel will share safety tips through our social media outlets and conduct community outreach events like Coffee with the Deputy. The latter will take place at Starbucks on Rosecrans by the high school this Thursday at 5 p.m. The public is invited to meet their deputies, ask questions, and share concerns. Now we'd like to present proclamation for National Crime Prevention Month to our very special guest. And that is, we would like McGruff, the crime-fighting dog, to please join us. Where's McGruff? Over here. So, here's McGruff. Is going to get this proclamation. I know dogs can't talk very well, correct? But you're here, and we appreciate it.
Crime prevention is partnership we all need to share in. Us as law enforcement, council, city partners, business, and the community. I'm thankful for the partnership the City Council, City Manager John Moreno, and the entire public safety team share with the station and the great men and women serving the City of Paramount. We are proud and committed to work alongside each of you to make the City of Paramount a great and safe place for all to enjoy. I would ask the community to engage with my deputies through contacts or community meetings such as Neighborhood Watch or Coffee with a Cop. We are here to serve as part of your community. Get to know your deputies. Regarding crime and protecting your neighborhoods and yourself, I would encourage you to be aware of your surroundings. If something doesn't look right, it's probably not right. See something, say something, please. And please, don't be a hero. Let us be there for you. Thank you. Appreciate it. God bless you.
Now we'd like Director of Student Services, Dr. Manuel San Miguel from Paramount Unified School District to come up. Every October, schools and organizations across the country observe National Bullying Prevention Month. We are doing the same in Paramount. The goal here is to encourage schools, organizations, the greater community to stop bullying and cyberbullying and put an end to hatred and racism. Everyone needs to be aware of the frequency and impact all forms of bullying on children. We want to stress that everyone should care about the physical, mental, and emotional health of our students. We'd like to give a proclamation to Dr. San Miguel, and would you like to say a few words?
Well, David and Yesenia promised me I didn't have to say anything, so I didn't plan anything. I just have to say thank you very much. We have a great relationship with our city, and we value that relationship. Thank you.
Okay, now please welcome April Hunter from the organization Sukasa. October is also Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It's a tragic but true that domestic violence touches the lives of Americans of all ages, leaving a devastating impact on women, men, and children of every background and circumstance. This month draws attention to preventing domestic violence and shows support for organizations and individuals who provide critical assistance to victims. Sukasa Ending Domestic Violence is one such organization that has done important work in Paramount since 1979. Sukasa builds partnerships to end domestic violence and helps individuals and families live free from this kind of abuse. Tonight, we're presenting a proclamation to April, and would you like to say a few words? Good.
On behalf of Sukasa, we are incredibly grateful for the support of the city. We really do appreciate the opportunity to serve the community, which in turn, by highlighting our organization, it only increases awareness. And with that, it provides survivors with more access to the services and the resources they need to truly move forward in their life. Thank you.
Now we want to acknowledge some good corporate citizens in our business community. Every year, the sanitation districts of Los Angeles County gives an award to companies that properly discharge their wastewater. When a company does this, it keeps pollution off our beaches and out of our oceans. While nearly 1,000 companies were eligible for this Good Corporate Citizen Award, only 391 qualified in 2018. 3 of them are here in Paramount. If any representatives were able to join us, please come up when I call your company's name. Ace Clearwater Enterprises. Ace Clearwater Enterprises. There you go. Thank you. ST&I. No? Okay. World Energy. No, yes. Yep. The city of Paramount was also named for our efforts in this area. It's an impressive and important award. It shows a sense of responsibility in regards to the environment. We're proud to congratulate all of Paramount's winners. Thank you very much. That's all of tonight's presentations, and we thank everyone for being here. Okay, City Council public comment updates.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do have a couple of updates from the previous council meeting, that meeting being on September 17th, 2019. The first one that we have update for you is from Mr. Gerald Serta. He once again requested that the city file a claim against Spectrum Cable to be reimbursed for an incident involving Spectrum's broken lid cover. After evaluating it, staff determined that the cost for response does not warrant filing a claim, and as a result, the city will not be filing a claim against Spectrum Cable. He also requested that we look into driver safety and responsibility classes in the schools. We will be exploring that with the Paramount Unified School District. And lastly, Mr. Serta was requesting free large item pickup for multifamily homes, and that issue was addressed extensively at the council meeting. The next speaker to follow up with that, once again from the September 17th meeting, was from Ms. Desiree Taylor. She had a number of issues, one being requesting free large item pickup for condo owners. As we explained at the meeting, because of collection and disposal methods, some of which are required by the state, extending that to properties with bin pickup, such as condominium complexes, would have been economically challenging for both Calumet and for rate payers. The second thing that Ms. Taylor was requesting was street parking for residents by removing the landscape median on Somerset Boulevard and converting Somerset Boulevard to one lane in each direction. An analysis was done by a traffic engineer, and that analysis warns us to not remove the center divider or to change the number of lanes. Due to the capacity of the vehicles on Somerset Boulevard. For instance, the traffic engineers mentioned that there's 17,000 vehicles per day that travel on that part of Somerset Boulevard. Additionally, the traffic engineer mentioned that it's a truck route and a regional corridor and could create congestion problems for us and severe safety issues as it would impact emergency vehicle response times. Lastly, with that, the traffic engineer also mentioned that it is actually a designated evacuation route in the event of a natural or man-made disaster. So reducing the number of lanes would adversely impact this function. The landscape medians, he's also recommending that we keep that for a safety role in that it prevents people from making unsafe U-turns, and removing the median would increase the possibility of head-on collisions. Thirdly, Ms. Taylor was requesting soundproof windows and doors as a result of the proposed Metro Light rail lines. We will be contacting Metro about that and requesting that they look into that as part of the environmental impact report. She was also requesting air purifiers for residents. We do have an existing program for residents to receive rebates for the purchase of air filters for their homes. Fifthly, she was requesting a break in the median on Downey Avenue to provide for a left turn movement from the condo complex onto Downey Avenue. Once again, we had our traffic engineer weigh in on that, and he determined that it cannot be done for safety reasons. It would increase the number of conflict points. And currently, there is an opportunity for motorists as they exit the driveway to go 200 feet north and make a U-turn to achieve that. And lastly, she was requesting information about the 2016 air pollution issue. And we mentioned to her, Ms. Taylor, that in 2016, the city developed a website about the whole air quality issue to inform the public about that, and that's at ParamountEnvironment.org. So all those items were addressed in a letter to Ms. Taylor that was mailed to her on September 26th. And with that, that concludes my update.
Okay, thank you. Public comments.
Yes, sir. We have 5 public comments. 2 of them deal with 2 items that are on the agenda. Item number 10, Mr. Kacharsnik would like to discuss. Steve, we'll go ahead and call you up when that item comes up. And the other one on item number 13 from Ms. Trish Belrose. Ms. Belrose will call you up when that item is heard as well. For as far as general comments, we do have one from Ms. Desiree Taylor, and she'd like to discuss a number of issues. Ms. Taylor?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Desiree Taylor. I'm the president of HOA, Somerset Paramount HOA, located on Downey and Somerset. Number 1, large item pickup. You guys stated this is only for single-family residents. I urge for the city attorney to research this, because if you don't include everybody, that is a part of discrimination. And I believe state and federal law protects people of discriminating. You're discriminating against the rest of the residents of the city of Paramount. That's not a good look. Secondly, safety issues. When we exit this our complex on Downey, when we only can go right, I ask for you guys to come over between the hours of 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. when the kids go to school. We cannot get out. You guys can give us some type of solution. You don't have to go with what I'm asking the city to do, but find a solution to the problem. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. We also need a solution for parking. I mean, the city took away our parking, and we can't even get a parking permit. Where are we supposed to go? We pay taxes, and we have nowhere to park. Find a solution, you guys. Come up with something that's reasonable for our residents, for our owners. We are taxpayers, and we pay our taxes. Proposed rules. I'm asking for you guys to put an ordinance or a rule for no smoking in a multifamily. Anyone who shares a common wall. The city of Culver City does it, the city of Pasadena. Let's set an example and show the residents that we care about their lives and that their kids and their grandkids' lives matter too. Air purifiers. We're not talking about rebates. We're talking about free purifiers. You guys get with New World Energy, get with Metro, and you guys provide free air purifiers. We have seniors on fixed budgets. They can't afford to go pay $200 for an air purifier, then wait for the city to turn around and give them $100 back. That means they won't eat for a week. Come on, you guys, figure out something for our residents. And lastly, a new report just came out with the EWG. Why didn't the city of Paramount do an independent study of our water? The city of Bellflower came back, They water levels has toxins. That's called forever chemicals. The city of Downey also, and the city of Long Beach. So you saying all our surrounding cities have this problem, but the city of Paramount has not done an independent study? We need to figure this out. We need to make sure we are for the people. All right, thank you for you guys' time and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Mayor Hanson,
You
may
want-
I say something,
Okay.
if possible? I just, last time Ms. Taylor came in, she was talking about the information about the air pollution issues, and I was like concerned because she said she didn't know about it. So what I did is actually, I have some family members and friends that actually live in that complex, and I went to check to see if they've received anything from us, and they did receive some mailings. So I just wanted to make sure that, hopefully that you were getting those mailings as well. And Adriana, if we could check to see if Ms. Taylor can get on the Nextel program to make sure that she's getting information through the city. I'm not sure if you're signed up for that. So I just wanted to verify.
Okay. Okay, further
yes,
public
Council.
comments?
Yeah, Ms. Lopez would like to comment on that.
Okay.
Yes, I did provide the information to sign up for Nixle.
Thank you.
And if I could take the opportunity also to encourage her to follow us on social media.
Okay.
Yes, I'd also like for Adriana Figueroa to discuss the water quality issue that was brought up with the council at a weekly memo a couple weeks ago. If you can just briefly explain that about our water quality.
Okay.
Certainly. Thank you, John. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as I had indicated, the PFAS and PFAS is the chemicals that were mentioned. And what the state did, the Drinking Water Division did, is they went back and looked at the test results from the UCMR3 testing, which was done a few years back. And based on those results, they went after or asked the cities that tested positive for those chemicals to conduct additional testing. We had non-detect on our wells, and so therefore we were not included in that listing. And that is the reason why the other cities are being asked to test and monitor for a period of 12 months.
And we did the exact same testing as all those other cities that were in the
Correct.
report, correct? And ours came out non-detect.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Our next speaker is Ms. Dina Turner, and she's from 1500 Downey Avenue as well.
So I have a proposal regarding when we do come out of our complex and we have to go right, and then there's that turnout to make the left to go south on Downey. You know how in front of the fire stations it says do not block? I would like to propose that help us because there's a lot of traffic bullies out there, for lack of a better word. But when we try to turn left, we're sitting there waiting sometimes maybe at least 5 minutes to make that turn because they pull up and block that turning lane to turn south on, to go south on Downey. So that would help us a lot between, I usually leave between 7:15 and 7:30. So that would help a lot of the residents. Some of us go down Downey north, but some of us do have to go south on Downey. So that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
I
can
have,
Oh, go ahead.
I have a question on
Yes, sir.
that also. If I'm not mistaken, is there not a entrance and exit on Somerset?
No, sir. We only have one entry and one exit on Downey to come in the complex on Downey.
That's a different complex then.
We're across from the gas station,
Yeah,
and
I know. So I thought it was all one complex.
Yeah,
Oh,
then.
no.
I think so what I think the mayor's referring to, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor, is that the southern portion of the complex is the apartments, and you're to the north of that, correct?
we're right there on Downey, so we're a little east of that. But then behind us are apartments. They
Right,
can come out
on
and-
Somerset.
on the Somerset. and
Okay,
go-
that's what I was curious
Where
about. I've
the
never been
condos.
inside there, and that's what I was
Yes, sir.
curious about. Okay, thank you.
In regards to her request, we will definitely look into the possibility of that. I think that is a doable thing.
Yeah, I think
so.
that's good, because that's what I was going to say, is we have that by the substation. Sure,
Absolutely.
So that's a good idea.
That's a good
And
idea.
a block intersection or
Yeah.
something.
Absolutely.
So they
There's
can
one that
stop back
exists on
here
Paramount Boulevard.
and not here.
Yeah, yeah,
There's one on Alondra too, where we do it.
yeah,
Same thing.
it's a good idea.
Okay.
And then maybe if we could look at the timing on the signal, if we know that between 7 and 8:30 is an issue, that they can make that left-hand turn onto Downey that you're talking about, maybe extend it so that traffic can start flowing through there. So look at timing issues, work with
And
what we
the
have.
the timeframes that Desiree mentioned.
Correct.
That, but we're in and out of that complex, all day. So I don't know what the.
But if we're having backup between 7 and 8:30, I mean, maybe we can have the engineer look at the timing of the lighting for that particular time, and then also look at other issues, but that would be like one small way to fix some of the quality of life issues you're having now.
Because it's the traffic coming from Rosecrans and that way from the school.
All right.
The traffic going south on Downey.
Okay.
So that's the only issue I have.
Yeah.
Because when they're coming from the schools dropping off, the elementary school and the high school, they're coming back south on Downey when we're trying to turn.
Right.
So they block our
Got it.
lanes. And then there's traffic coming out from, there's a complex over there on the left side, right there by the tracks, for the tracks on the left side. So they're trying to get out as well from that side one-way street out onto Downey. So we have to wait, and try and be nice and let them out as well. So.
That's Second Street, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Second Street.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Uh-huh.
the keep clear sign, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I'll talk to our traffic engineer and see what we can do on that. The signal timing, however, we're on a synchronized program, and so that it would be a much more difficult thing to do.
But if it's possible to alleviate some of their issues, whether it's difficult, sometimes we have to do difficult things.
Right, but it would be.
Which one is it?
challenging.
Is it north and south or east and west? I know there's one they won't let you change because of some designation through the COG or.
The county, that's Rosecrans Avenue East-West, but you're saying you think
Correct.
that Downey could be included?
So
as-
It could
just
be as part of the
Rosecrans, not-
synchronization program.
Rosecrans and Alondra were both part of a county-wide one that we got
Okay.
funding for that. I think that's what you're probably referring to.
Well, I know
But
that when
Downey
we've had
Avenue
it
might
before
be.
in changing the times, there was one direction
Right.
that the whole
Yeah,
region has to abide by
Right.
because of the traffic studies that
you're
were done.
absolutely right. That's what it was.
Okay.
I will look into
Tom,
it,
I
though.
think if you, her idea of putting up no block it, just put signs up is the best way to handle that
Yeah,
problem.
that might
Well, and
work.
those white lines
Yeah.
that say stay behind the sign.
Right.
Like I said, we
Stay
have it in a
behind it.
couple places in the city. I think that's a great idea.
Just like at the fire departments.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to take them a minute to,
Get used to
read
it.
it and get used
Sure.
to it.
Sure.
But I think that would start, letting them know, that they've got to share the road.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last speaker card, Mr. Mayor, is from Ms. Andrea Crow from the Paramount Library. Ms. Crow?
Good evening, Mayor Hansen, council members, and the City of Paramount. This month, Paramount Library has a schedule full of fun and educational programs for all ages. Tomorrow, Wednesday, October 2nd at 10:30, we have our very popular toddler art. And on Friday, October 4th at 10:15, we're hosting Smarty Pants Storytime for children ages 2 to 5. Next week, MakeMo is bringing 2 programs to the library on Tuesday, October 8th. At 4 p.m., teens are invited to rock out with our synth kits and find out how electricity is translated into sound. At 5 p.m., children ages 7 to 12 can harness the power of the wind and build sail-powered cars. We're also hosting a special teen program on Wednesday, October 9th from 5:30 to 7. Teens and their families are invited to a personal safety course with the Children's Rescue Alliance. Teens will learn about personal safety, the importance of being aware of their surroundings, and will complete a walkthrough of evasion tactics and self-protection moves. Learn more about these and other great programs at lacountylibrary.org. Thank you.
Thank
Greg,
you.
can I ask you a question, Mr. Mayor? Is that okay? For all of the ones that you listed today, do any of them require reservations?
No, none. Occasionally we might if there's something
I
where
got asked by a resident because they watch the shows that if you would state that when they do require, because they said they went because they heard you speak here, but they couldn't participate because they didn't have a reservation. So just when you offer the opportunities, if it requires one, if you could add that to your comments, that would be great.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. None further?
No, sir.
Consent calendar.
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Hoffmeyer, second by Lemons to move the consent calendar. Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer,
Yes.
Mayor Hansen.
Yes. Item 10. Public hearing ordinance number 1116, introduction, approving zoning ordinance text amendment number 14 to regulate home gardens in the R1, R2, RM zones and legal non-conforming residential properties in commercial and manufacturing zone. We have staff report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, we received some interest to relook at our code in regards to gardening boxes in some of our residential zones. We've crafted some changes that would allow for this. We ran this by the Planning Commission, and they had some discussions about it, and ultimately recommended the council approve the changes that we're proposing to the code. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Planning Director, John Carver, to handle the item. John?
Thank you, John. Mr. Mayor and council members. This item is a request to adopt a zoning ordinance text amendment to allow and regulate home gardens in the single-family residential zone, the medium-density residential zone, the multiple-family residential zone, and legal non-conforming residential properties in commercial and manufacturing areas. This item was raised by a resident at a recent city council meeting. The resident stated that she had been approached by people that do not have rear or side yards to grow vegetables, and there was a desire in the community to allow growing of vegetables in the front yard. Paramount does have a long history of supporting urban agriculture, both in home gardens and in community gardens, and the picture on the right is from several decades ago from a Paramount resident who's enjoying a community garden. There are a number of benefits to gardening, including access to fresh food, encouragement of healthy eating habits, the use of fewer chemicals in the growing process, and combating food insecurity. Proposed changes in the single-family residential zone include a clarification on the location of greenhouses. Greenhouses would be allowed in the rear yard and must maintain a distance of 5 feet from side and rear property lines. Gardens would be allowed in side yards and rear yards in single-family residential properties, but not in the front yard, and anything grown on the side yard couldn't go above the height of a 6-foot-tall fence. And also the sale of vegetables from a home would be prohibited. Proposed amendments in the medium-density residential zone, the multiple-family residential zone, and non-conforming residential uses in commercial and industrial zones would allow raised planters in the front yard. Planter boxes would be required. The planter box could have a maximum height of 3 feet and a plant height of 3 feet, so that you would have a total of 6 feet. And the planter box in the photo demonstrates the proposed dimensions. You can see the 3-foot-tall planter box and then the 3-foot-tall limit on the vegetables. Here's an example of a planter box in the front yard of a medium-density residential property. At the Planning Commission, there was discussion about allowing larger planting boxes. The commission came to a consensus to review the regulations in 1 year to see if larger planter boxes should be allowed. Next steps, if approved by the council this evening, would include a adoption on November 5th by the City Council. After adoption, we would begin promotion of the planter box regulations. And then finally, there would be a 1-year review, if desired by the City Council, in relation to allowing larger planter boxes. And we're recommending that the council introduce ordinance 1116 and place it on the next agenda for adoption, and also to provide direction on a one-year review of the ordinance, again, in relation to the size of planter boxes. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Before we open the public hearing, any questions?
I have one question. I understand 3 feet high, but what's the width and the length of the box?
24 square feet, so it could be
24
4 by
square feet?
6.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, this is,
That question about the greenhouses, could you explain that a little bit more to me? It says that that the regulations now permitted, it was to clarify it.
Right.
So are you talking like regular glass-built greenhouses? And they've
Greenhouses.
always been like allowed in residential areas?
Yeah, that's correct, right. In the R1 zone, there aren't any regulations. It can be placed in the backyard. We want to make it specific that you can't be closer than 5 feet to a side or rear property line.
But, so not at the side of a property, that's what I was saying. They'd have to be in the rear yard, but with a 5-foot setback?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I thought when you were saying that you were saying they could go in the side of the yard, and I'm going,
I see. No, in the rear yard.
Okay, that's what I wanted clarity on. Thank you.
okay, this is a public hearing. We do have a speaker. For those in favor first? Where did we go? In favor? Okay, Lordum, okay.
Steve, you want to hit your button?
Your mic's not on.
Stephen Kucharzik. I live on Racine Avenue. And I never needed city regulations to grow a garden in the front. I always have. What sort of toned it down is the fact that my trees have matured and I don't have quite the light anymore. There are quite a lot of vegetables that are actually quite ornamental. I mean, the city even decorates some of their beds with, I think I've seen cabbages and stuff, ornamental type flowers. And vegetables, Swiss chard and stuff can be quite, decorative. My big concern was I'd heard this come out at the Planning Commission, and I was under the impression that they were requiring these raised beds, but it's my understanding now that if you have decent bordered flower beds, you're allowed to grow them in there, more or less. I think. Pretty close?
No, a planter box would be required.
Okay, then I'll take issue with it here. Planter boxes are usually designed for, they're raised for older people with blown out knees and for drainage. But like I said, if you can grow ornamental flowers, why can't you grow vegetables if they look decent? I mean, I don't really see an issue with that. I understand where the city comes out with these regs sometimes, but sometimes I think you might overdo it. I mean, like I sort of like vines. I've got them growing up my gutters and stuff. Sometimes some people might take issue with that sometimes. Yeah.
I didn't say a thing, Steve. I didn't say a thing.
Actually, I wish you'd take issue with the Halloween decorations and try to rein in my daughter a little bit this time of year.
You got the best
Goes
house in
kinda
the
crazy.
neighborhood.
I really think if you have a decent bed, you should be able to grow. It's for containment anyway. I mean, they can overflow from a concrete lined, encircled flower bed just as easy as they can from a wood one. And a wood one's actually harder to maintain and looks kind of like crap after a couple years where you have to redo it. I've got some poured concrete ones around my flower beds, and at least I don't have to do anything to them. So maybe this will get more people with some straw hats on, and you'll think about the chickens coming back. Okay, thank you very much.
There we go. Anyone else in favor? Those opposed?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved by Hoffmeyer, second by Almost, I think.
Lemons.
Did I beat her?
Lemons, okay, I don't know if you beat her or not. But
Or maybe it was both of us.
both of you, huh?
Go for
Okay,
it,
that's fine.
whichever one's
Roll
fine
call,
with me.
please.
Councilmember Guillen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer,
Yes.
Mayor Hansen.
Yes.
I'll move the item.
Second.
Been moved by Lemon, second by Hoffmeyer to read by title only, waive further reading, introduce ordinance number 1116, and place it on the next regular agenda for adoption. We have roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer,
Yes.
Mayor Hansen.
Yes. Item number 11, professional services.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry. Was that motion also to include the one-year review that the Planning Commission recommended?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, just want to make sure that's on the record.
Okay, yeah, it was a 1-year review. Yeah, I thought that was in there. Okay. Number 11, professional services agreement for environmental consultant for World Energy Expansion Project. We have staff report, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and Council. We've all heard about World Energy's plans to permanently convert the refinery to a renewable fuels production plant. In order for us to look at this, we are requiring a very comprehensive environmental impact report. This next item is an agreement to hire a consultant who will produce this report. And with that, I'll turn over once again to our planning director, John Carver, who will handle the item. John?
Thank you, John. Mr. Mayor and council members. This item is a request for approval of a professional services agreement to prepare an environmental impact report for a conversion project at World Energy. The cost of the environmental impact report is $243,330, which would be reimbursed to the city by World Energy. A reimbursement agreement would be signed prior to the start of the environmental impact report. World Energy has applied to amend a conditional use permit that was approved in 2014 that allowed for the production of renewable jet and diesel fuel that is produced from beef tallow and vegetable oil. World Energy has not produced petroleum-based fuel or asphalt since production began on renewable fuels after the 2014 approval of the conditional use permit. The Planning Commission would hear the amendment request after the completion of the environmental impact report, and the project would permanently convert the refinery from petroleum-based products to renewable fuels. The consultant is MRS Environmental, and they have extensive experience preparing environmental documents. These include environmental impact reports, risk assessments, and environmental monitoring. MRS has extensive experience in the South Coast Air Quality Management region and has done gas and oil-related projects throughout California. MRS has worked on gas and oil-related projects in Southern California, and some of the cities include Hermosa Beach, Carson, El Segundo, and Whittier. The city attorney has approved the professional services agreement. And with that, we're recommending that you approve the professional services agreement with MRS Environmental. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and the consultant is also here in the audience if there are any questions for them.
I have one question, John.
Yes.
How come it's not put out for bid? It says it's Paramount Municipal Code policies, but
Right.
I remember one time we had something else happen in the city, and the bid was about $198,000. We got it done for $35,000 or $40,000.
Right.
When we called it back.
Right. This is a very unique type of service that is provided. There are not a lot of firms out there that have experience in gas and oil projects, preparing environmental impact reports. So after doing research on firms that are out there, getting recommendations, that's why we have decided to choose MRS Environmental.
But did you get any other bids?
No, we did not.
It's ironic that I got a call from two different sources in the city in regards to why the city doesn't do project labor agreements with unions. And they said, it seems like we keep using the same people over and over. And then in the past, I had mentioned that for transparency, sometimes when you've used the same environmental companies for 20 years, and we went through all of that, and you guys gave me the reason why we do that. But I think at the very least, this should go out to bid, $243,000, and to get no other bids sounds like a lot of money to me. And then in addition to that, how do we know that that's a fair and equitable bid?
If I could just reply, this is the first time we've used this environmental consultant, and the $243,000 would be reimbursed by World Energy, so it wouldn't be an expense for the city. Right.
I understand that, but the money is still coming out of an account somewhere from the city. And
To be reimbursed.
to be reimbursed.
I get it, but meanwhile, before we get reimbursed, it's still coming from somewhere. And so, I mean, that's not to me, that doesn't sound like, okay, well, since we're not paying for it, we don't have to do due diligence. Just because it's not coming out of our pocket in the long run, initially, it is coming out of a fund, and we always say we don't have money in the general fund for this or for that. Where are we getting this money from, 240, to take out of our account until we're reimbursed? How long will it take for reimbursement?
We would be billed on a monthly basis, and then we would bill World Energy on a monthly basis also.
Until they paid us back the total amount, or?
No, so typically it's 30 days to pay an invoice, so we would pay the invoice to World Energy. We would pay the invoice to MRS Environmental, and then we would bill World Energy. They would have 30 days to pay us so we would continue to bill them on a monthly basis.
Okay, so it wouldn't come out at 243 all at once?
No, not at all.
Okay, and then for the initial payment, and then how many months is that?
We're probably looking at maybe 8 to 10 months to prepare the environmental impact report. So we would have 8 to 10 months of billing. And then we, in turn, would bill World Energy every month.
Okay, that makes better sense, but I just don't like being in the habit of not putting things out to bid. It's still my opinion that, what do they say? There's a saying, you practice like you want to perform. So we should be doing the things the same way each time, regardless. And so I'm a little leery of that, but.
Yeah, one more question then. Why can't we have World Energy put up upfront money? Have them put up the first $100,000, put it in the bank?
That's something we could explore if World Energy would agree to that. I mean, it's definitely the report that's needed for their project, so my guess is they would be okay with that. But
that would solve all the problems right there. When that 100,000's up, they put in another 100,000.
Right. Yeah. Again, we haven't.
So the city always has the money in their hands, right? So it doesn't cost us a penny.
Sure. And again, we haven't drafted the reimbursement agreement quite yet. We're in the process of doing that right now, so that's something that we could definitely look at if that's the pleasure of the council.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, can I?
Yes.
I would just like to make a comment regarding this and everybody's concerns, which are very valid. And I actually went to John when I saw the price of this particular EIR, because it's one of the most expensive ones that I had ever seen. And I was actually very pleased with the response I got. We could all feel differently about it, but he said it was an expensive EIR, but given the air quality issues in the city, they wanted the very best top firm out there, and that they wanted somebody who does this on a regular basis and that has, all their ducks in a row, so that we get the utmost possible. So in this particular case, even if we went out to bid, because this is such an important issue in our city, it doesn't necessarily mean that we would go with the lower bid.
Right.
But I just appreciate that was the attitude of staff, which is, if we're going to do something that addresses the environment in the city, we're going to get the best there is to give us a report on it. So I was just pleased with that answer and wanted to put it on record that I had asked that. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we possibly even look into this payment type thing?
Prepayment of 100,000? Sure,
Would that
absolutely.
need to go into the motion then?
Yeah.
And
I'll make the
How would
motion.
you like to word that?
Well, actually, Mr. Mayor, we're working on the reimbursement agreement, and the suggestion that Councilmember Hoffmeyer made is not unusual, because it's very similar when developers come in and they put big deposits down to the city, and then it's drawn down, and then they make deposits on top of that. So it's not unusual. It's something that the city manager and I have actually talked about as an option, and we're going to propose that so that we're not behind, and that they pay up a certain deposit. As it gets down to a certain level, we ask them to add into the deposit again. So there really isn't any outflow or inflow. It's basically we're just reimbursing ourselves.
Right.
Right.
So it's not unusual, and we are going to pursue that. We'll see how they react to that. It's not unusual, though.
Okay.
And then
So-
one other thing in this environmental impact report, we've had plenty of requests of people coming up and asking about World Energy. In this impact report, can we look at making sure they can do an assessment on doubled paned windows for the people around there that perhaps, we heard about the fumes and, or not, they're probably not fumes, but odors coming from the facility, what they're doing now. So if we could look at double paned windows at the very least to go into the environmental impact report to see if that would make any significant difference by having those installed.
Right, so odor would be part of the evaluation
part of the
in the
evaluation.
environmental impact report. So
Correct, but I want to know if the windows would impact, having a certain type of double pane windows would impact those odors and keeping them out from it coming into the residents' homes.
yes, that's something that could be examined as part of the environmental impact report in the odor discussion.
Perfect,
To
thanks.
mitigate any type of problems with that.
Right.
That would go in there, okay.
John, when they're doing this animal fat and this oil and stuff like that, there's going to be an odor, right? I mean,
No, John and I have actually been out there while they're producing, when they bring the cars in with the beef fat. There's not an odor,
Not an odor, huh?
when you're standing there. We've stood on the loading rack, and then you don't smell anything until they open the top of the train car. Then you do smell it when that's open, but that's not how they unload it. They have a piping that goes to it. So nothing is ever opened when it's being unloaded or
But what about the
unloaded.
process?
I'm sorry.
There's no odor when you open the vat, but were you guys there for the processing?
We were there while that was happening. No odor also.
so it's not going to smell like burning.
No.
Like,
All right.
did you just say, though, it smelled like something or it didn't smell like something? I'm sorry.
When you open the top of the train car,
Right.
it smells like maybe like barbecue.
Like a barbecue.
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple residents here. Do you guys detect any odors from that facility?
No.
Perfect.
They don't have anything, okay. Well, that would all be included in the environmental report then? All of that stuff?
Analysis, yeah.
Okay. Any further comments?
Yeah, I make a motion we approve it with the, with them, World Energy putting up money up front of at least $100,000 to start it.
Council member, I wouldn't make that as part of the motion. I think the motion before you right now is the
Okay.
actual agreement for professional services. The reimbursement part is something that we're doing internally, and that we'll be finalizing that. But right now, it's just for the
And I'll change
agreement.
my thing to just go ahead and view the,
But I have a question then. But if we approve these services, then we're on the hook to pay for it. And then you want to enter into a contract with them. So then we're entered into a contract, and then we're going to work out who pays for it?
No, they're going to pay for it
No, I
anyway.
know, but with
It's
the
just a matter of-
100,000 up front, then, so what if they say no and we're already hooked into the contract?
Councilor Gillen, if I could say, we would not start the environmental impact report until we get that first payment then. That's our intent, right? Right now, our recommendation is to not start the EIR until we've signed the reimbursement agreement.
Mr. Mayor,
Correct, but what if they don't agree to the 100,000
Yeah,
up
we would-
front and we've entered into a
we
contract?
wouldn't approve the
wouldn't sign that
environmental impact report,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't approve it?
Mr. Mayor, if I
we're-
can.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I can, and,
Go ahead.
and John, the last part of the recommended action tonight, the motion, is contingent on the signing of a reimbursement agreement between World Energy and the city. Could the motion be amended to say, with a $100,000 deposit upfront?
You know,
Or not?
here's what I would recommend. This can address it. Again, this approval is contingent upon the reimbursement. So we're not on the hook unless that reimbursement is agreed upon.
Agreed upon.
But what you can do is to say, as part of the reimbursement, is that we enter into a deposit reimbursement where they deposit money in at a certain amount. You can say $100,000, and then they just basically keep reimbursing us or depositing money as it gets down to a certain level. It's not necessary if you get to that detail of a level, because we'll be doing that. But I think the concept is something you can bring in as part of the motion. But more importantly, this agreement is contingent on a reimbursement, so it doesn't go anywhere until we agree to it. If we don't agree to a reimbursement agreement, there's no agreement.
Okay.
Okay, answer everybody's questions?
As long as that's in the language, yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to put this other language in, feel free to do that as part of your motion, and that will help us.
So Daryl's
Yeah.
made that motion with that
Yeah.
contingency.
Made that motion to
And I'll
start with.
second it.
Okay, moved by Hoffmeyer, second by Lemons. And I'm going to add all this in there. Approved professional services agreement with MRS Environmental Incorporated in the amount of $243,330 to prepare an environmental impact report for World Energy Expansion Project contingent upon the signing of reimbursement agreement between World Energy and the city with the added clause, I suppose I could say,
There you go.
that there would be some sort of a deposit. Is that okay?
That works. Upfront money.
Okay, roll call then.
Councilmember Guillen,
Did somebody second it?
Yeah, I already did that. Or I didn't do it.
Yes.
It was already seconded, yeah.
Second. Peggy, second.
Councilmember
Was a
Lemons.
question, was it?
Pardon?
It was just a question I had. It
Yes,
wasn't
it was moved and
anything
seconded.
contentious.
Well, I was reading it.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer,
Yes.
Mayor Hansen.
Yes.
They call you?
Okay, we're all cool. Okay, item number 12, proposed Paramount Youth Sports Hall of Fame program. Staff report, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, Council. Over the years, we've definitely found ways to honor or recognize the achievements of our students. Here's just another way to honor students from the high school, but this time it's on the athletic side of the student body over the high school. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Community Services and Recreation Director, Dave Johnson, who will handle the item with the flashy title slide here, huh, Dave?
Thank you, John. Mr. Mayor and council members. So as John mentioned, so at City Council's direction, we actually are doing a very good job in recognizing some important elements in our community. First, what we did is the Boulevard of Heroes. So starting back in 2016, we have a system where we can honor our residents who are currently serving in the armed forces, and that Boulevard of Heroes exists on Paramount Boulevard between Somerset and Rosecrans. Additionally, we started in 2018 a program to recognize our top scholars coming out of the Paramount High School. This recognizes the top 25 graduating seniors. It's based upon their GPA, and they get a banner on Alondra Boulevard between Downey and Paramount, and that shows their graduation photo and the college they're intending to go to. Starting last year, we actually included 2 new other programs to recognize students coming out of the high school. We honor our top 5 graduating seniors that have committed a lot of hours of volunteer service to their community, so we're recognizing them. Those banners go up at the Civic Center parking area. And additionally, we're recognizing the top 5 Momentum students. These are students that, for whatever reason, had some difficulties in the beginning of their high school career. They really became focused in those last 2 years, and they became excellent students and graduated from Paramount High School. So we recognize them as well at our Civic Center parking lot. So as John mentioned, we do not have a program to recognize our athletes. Here's just a few examples of what the high school has produced in terms of winning championship teams. And again, these teams were comprised of some very outstanding athletes that we'd like to recognize. The high school currently has 18 sports. We're including in that. Cheerleading is a CIF sport, so they're going to be part of this. We are following the model because close by to us, we have the city of Lakewood. They've been doing this similar program since 1981. So if you ever get a chance to go to McDonald's on Woodruff, they have these displays going back to 1981. The whole McDonald's is full of them. So it's a really nice venue that they have set up with for their program. So you'll see that bottom left photo. That's what it would kind of look like. You would have an image of the top athletes of the year, and then they list all the names of the various other performers from the other sports. So our Paramount Youth Sports Hall of Fame, obviously we'll work in close collaboration with Paramount Unified School District, and specifically Paramount High School. And the restaurant that we're going to work with that will display our Hall of Fame each year will be the Horchateria. These athletes need to either reside in the city of Paramount, and they may go to Paramount High School, or they could go to a local other private school. But there will be an application process that they'll have to participate in. The application can be submitted by the athlete themselves. It can be their parent, it could be a coach, it could be a friend. We will have to form a Paramount Youth Sports Hall of Fame committee, which will comprise of at least 10 people, maximum of 20. And this committee will be the group that will meet in January, which will choose among all those applications who will be recognized as that current year's crop of athletes of the year. So this committee will consist of the recreation director, my position. That will be a non-voting member. I'm just there to make sure that we're following the guidelines of the council. There will be a Parks and Recreation Commissioner chosen by the Parks and Recreation Chair. We're going to have representatives from the high school, obviously. They're the ones that know the athletes the best. We are also going to be looking very much like the Lakewood model to try to get a CIF official, hopefully, on the committee. There'll be someone from the restaurant, Horchateria. Our local YMCA will be represented. We'll also be looking to, like the Lakewood model, to get some local sports media represented on here because obviously they follow the beat, they follow all the sports at the high schools. And there'll be community members as well on the committee. The nominations, what we'll do is we'll put the application online. It'll be at the high school and the various private schools as needed, depending on which athletes might be at those high schools, and it'll be on the city's website. The application will be due in early December, and then again, as the committee will meet and make their choices in January. And then what we'll do is notify the winners in February. What we'll do with the winners is once we notify them, they'll be invited to a banquet that'll take place at the end of February. The categories that we'll be recognizing for our athletes would be Athlete of the Year. So the Athlete of the Year, once that person wins that, they can't win any other category. So if you get an Athlete of the Year from the swim program, the Performer of the Year for that sport will have to be another student. There'll be all around, so you'll get 18 Performers of the Year, you'll get an all-around performer, a Future Star Award. The Future Star Award actually will be coming from the 9th grade campus. There'll be a Scholar Athlete of the Year. And if there's any teams in that given year that we're looking at that have won a championship, the whole team will be recognized as part of this process. So again, similar to Lakewood, what we do is we create a framed image of the Athlete of the Year that will list then all the Performers of the Year and the winners in the other categories. And this will be placed at the Horchateria, and it'll be on display all year. And then it'll be replaced every year with the new winners from what we do this for 2019. Next year will be 2020. The recommended action is that the council approve or modify the proposed Paramount Youth Sports Hall of Fame program, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Why was this specific restaurant picked or reached?
Well, the Horchateria is coming into the downtown, and it gets a lot of foot traffic, and it will get a lot of foot traffic.
Also space, isn't it? Because they're going to have.
Yes, they've actually chosen a really a huge wall that once you walk in, that'll be on display on that wall, and you won't be able to miss it.
My question, Dave, was Skateland, Paramount Skateland. Can we have those skaters? I went to on September 14th, they had a competition, and there was a girl from Paramount Iceland that took 4th place, competed against Glendora and Pasadena, and she did really well, and she's featured in the Paramount Journal. But I think we should open it up to Paramount skaters here in Paramount as well.
That would be at the discretion of the council. We are currently aiming this at the high school, so 9th through 12th, but that's totally open to the council.
Well, maybe if there's a skater that's 9th through 12th, you know.
Well, again, it's open to the discretion of the council how you want to handle this.
They would apply, correct?
Is it a nomination or an application?
Nomination application?
Well, again, you can nominate somebody, so you would fill out the application for them with their statistics, or the athlete themselves can do it.
Yeah.
So skating would be included.
Again, at the discretion of the council, we can add that certainly.
Okay, great.
Any further questions?
Just to clarify, would you want that skater to be a Paramount resident or at least live in the Paramount Unified School District area, or can they be from outside of the area?
I would say
if you could kind of give us a little more direction on that.
School district and Paramount, yes.
That's the criteria now, right?
As long as
If you're a Paramount resident.
part of PUSD or a resident.
Right.
Yeah.
Stay like that.
Okay, all right, just so we know. Okay,
For
thank you.
clarification, are we still staying within the high school age category?
Pardon me?
The high school age category?
Yeah, just to keep it consistent.
Okay.
Yeah, because
think
it's
so.
youth sports, so I think we have to stay within that.
Okay.
Okay, so include skating is the direction?
As long as that skater meets the same criteria, like they're part of PUSD's perimeter that they have or a Paramount resident.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any further questions?
Make a motion to move the item, please.
Second.
Moved by Almost, second by Hoffmeyer to approve the proposed Paramount Youth Sports Hall of Fame program. We have roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer,
Yes.
Mayor Hansen.
Yes. Item number 13, review of the sales tax increase focus group. And we'll have the report first, then we do have a speaker on that too, correct?
Yes, we do, sir.
Let's have the report first.
You got it. The slide presentation. We're going to do a tag team presentation on this between me and Kevin. I'm going to start off, do a little bit of the presentation, and then Kevin will jump in, and then he'll turn it back over to me. Make sure this thing's working. Yep. Oh, there we go. Okay. As you know, we convened a focus group on September 12th. The purpose of the focus group was to give us feedback on a proposed sales tax measure that we've been talking to the council about. And we wanted to get a variety of interests there, and so we'll go over that in a minute about the group itself. The presentation that you're about to see was the same presentation that was given to the focus group on September 12th. And again, we'll go over more specifics about the group later on. So I started off the presentation by asking how they feel about the direction that we're taking the city. That is, are we doing a good job right now? At the end of our presentation right now, we'll give the specific results that we got, the feedback results, whether or not we are doing a good job or not. But in general, everyone thought that we are in fact taking the city in the right direction. And what they said was really in line with the survey that was conducted, as we all know, in spring, and the results were presented to the city council, and it was a poll. And the research showed that about 2/3 of the residents believe Paramount provides a better quality of life than other neighboring cities. We're committed to providing public safety, well-maintained streets and roads, clean parks, public areas, a vibrant local business climate, and services that really enhance the quality of life for our residents. So we kind of discussed each one of these bullet points here. We mentioned that public safety programs over the years, we've adopted big ones and small ones. For some of those, for some of you might remember the Target program. That was a big program that we produced back in the 1990s to target the 25 most violent gang members, and that was very effective. We had the Good Neighbor program to help train on the landlords. We developed the BEAT system where we divided up the city into 4 areas. And more recently, our security device rebate program, traffic enforcement. So once again, we've developed a number of public safety programs, small and large, over the years that has helped. We gave to them like the bare bones costs of maintaining streets and roads. For instance, in FY20, our road maintenance budget is $1.8 million. So we really went into detail about that. We explained to them we do a smart approach to incremental investments to avoid a larger cost in the future. When it comes to creating a vibrant local business climate, we explained to them about our commercial rehab program for our businesses and how that's been helpful to the mom and pop businesses here in town. And lastly, we talked about our active code enforcement division that really helps to improve the quality of life. And we ended with explaining some of the special events that improve the quality of life as well, like our concerts and our festivals and outdoor markets, et cetera. So when we talk about keeping our city and safe and well maintained, we also talk about how we've heard that it's a great place to live. We've really created an environment where people want to come here to live in town. As I mentioned, with an aggressive public safety stance over the last 20 or 30 years, crime is down to levels not seen since 1970s, with our largest drop in gang crime. You see there 94% over a 10-year period. Just as everywhere in the country, unemployment is also down, just like everybody else. When it comes to education, with our PEP program, our STAR program, our Education Month, our Top 25 Boulevard banners, we've really gone out of our way to emphasize the importance of education in the community. That and all the things that the Paramount Unified School District has done has really led to higher graduation rates, more college attendance as well. We explain how we invest a lot in our infrastructure, and that has definitely helped to increase median home values. As you see there, home values have gone up nearly 95% since 2012. We've used various sources of funding, grant funds, things like that to improve our various facilities around town. More recently, we used RDA bonds to revitalize our downtown. We got a nice grant from several sources to improve Dills Park and Salud Park as well. Our top priority, we explained to them, is maintaining the quality of life and public safety for all of our residents. And while we do remain committed to that pledge, we also are concerned about our long-term financial stability. Our city is thriving at this time, but despite the financial challenge that we are facing, again, with the loss of the RDA, it was very significant. We've done okay over the years, we explained to them, but this was money that we used to build stuff. It was used to build and improve our community. We've had a $42 million loss over 7 years. That's money that we're not going to get back. We are a small contract city. We explained to them how contract cities work, how they evolved over time, but even that's getting tough to fund. Outsourcing does help to contain costs. However, costs for outsourcing in the private sector, that's also going up. For instance, the cost of a deputy is more than $450,000. That's inclusive of everything all, and it's not just the deputy's salary. It's for the cars, for the motors, for the equipment, that everything involved, the overhead, everything that you see that comes with a deputy. But that just kind of give them the picture of what we are facing, how expensive it is to run the city. Over time, we've done our best to keep taxes low and expensive down. After the redevelopment hit, we reduced staffing from 122 full-time employees to 92. We're definitely a lean organization. In fact, we're, as you can see here from the table here, we're in the top 3 in terms of employees per 1,000. We're almost in a virtual tie with the city of La Mirada for second place there. We've also done some restructuring. We merged 2 departments, administrative services and planning, at one time. When we had vacancies, we've moved positions around where the need is greater. We've also looked at innovation and technology to create efficiencies. Most recently, you might remember we are using the new code enforcement software. That technology has helped us to track cases and has lessened the amount of staff time that we spend on cases. You may recall just recently, we started an employee pension reform plan, which requires classic employees to pay for a portion of their pension share. We also are making lump sum payments in addition to our annual payment that we make to PERS. And also, we're building up our PERS reserve account. So that's all under the auspices of our employee pension plan, reform plan. We required employees to contribute to the cost of their health plan. There was at one point where the city covered the full 100% cost of the health plan. Now the city covers 85% with the employee chipping in 15%. We've more recently built partnerships with Long Beach Transit. As you may recall, we turned over our transit program to Long Beach Transit, and that has helped us to save money. We've also worked with the YMCA to have them take over some of our aquatics program. And there's more. However, with all this, we're still facing some fiscal challenges. And this is where we kind of went over what those challenges are and how we are planned to meet those. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kevin, just like we did at the focus group meeting, and Kevin will handle the next part. Kevin?
All right, thank you, John. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, continuing on with this presentation that we provided to the focus group. So as John mentioned, the city is working really hard to maintain a high quality of life standard for our community. That's something that our residents have come to expect, and that's why Paramount is a great place to live. But we as staff, we're also looking out into the future. We're looking over the horizon because we want to be prepared for the challenges ahead. And while we've been very responsible with our finances and we've done a lot to contain our cost, there are outside forces, as John mentioned, that are affecting our budget, such as the rising cost of our sheriff's contract, as well as the loss of redevelopment. Again, that was a loss of $6,000 in a budget of about $25 million.
$6 million.
$6 million, I'm sorry. $6 million loss in a budget of about $25 million. So that is a significant hit to us financially. And because what we're seeing is in about 5 years' time, by 2025, we may be looking at a budget deficit of about $3 to $4 million. So obviously that's something that's very concerning and something we need to do something about. So what is it that we can do? Well, the city is considering a ballot measure to increase sales tax by 0.75% to avoid this deficit and in order to ensure that we're able to continue funding our law enforcement contract as well as other essential services. So if the City Council approved this measure for the March 2020 election and Paramount voters approve it, the additional sales tax revenue could be very beneficial to our community, and these are some examples of what it can be used for. Of course, again, to maintain our level of public safety, which includes sheriff patrols and school safety officers, continue to maintain our streets, sidewalks, and to fill potholes. We could continue addressing our homelessness issue that we are confronted with. We can continue with providing funding for youth violence prevention and after-school programs. We can maintain our very popular senior program. We can keep our parks and other public areas both safe and clean. We can continue to provide quick responses when we have emergency calls through 911. And we can continue with our economic development programs to help attract new businesses such as retail businesses and restaurants. So at this point, we played a little game with our focus group to test their knowledge of sales tax. So if you'd like, you can play along as well. So here's $1. And for every $1 that's spent, the question is, how much do we have to pay in sales tax?
9 3/4 right now?
9.5.
9.5.
9.5.
9.5, correct. So 9.5 cents. So again, for every dollar that you spend on something that is subject to sales tax, you also have to pay 9.5 cents, 9.5 pennies. So, of the 9.5 pennies that you have to pay, how much do you think the city receives in terms of sales tax revenue?
1%.
Which amounts to?
1.25.
0.9 about.
1.8.
I'll give you the answer here.
It's a little higher.
It's 1 penny.
1 penny?
So again, $1 spent, 9.5 cents that you pay in sales tax. The city receives 1 penny from that dollar spent. So again, for every dollar that's spent that's subject to sales tax, the city receives only 1 penny. And I'll give you some examples of what this is like in the real world. So for example, if you were to buy a fancy pair of tennis shoes, the city would receive $1 in sales tax revenue. If you were to purchase a $1,000 computer, the city would receive $10 in sales tax revenue. And then again, for a small $10,000 car, the city would receive $100. So the point of this is the city doesn't really receive that much in terms of sales tax revenue, and that's why it's just so important that we try to keep as much of it here locally. So if
Excuse
the
me, Kevin,
sales
before
tax.
you move on, is there any kind of breakdown on where the other 8.5 cents go?
Yes, so the bulk of it goes to the state and the county.
County, that's what I thought.
And I believe that amounts to about 8% roughly.
Okay.
And a quarter cent goes to a Metro, which Kevin's going to explain right now too, for a Measure M, and another quarter cent for Measure R, I believe. So, yeah, Metro and county and state.
What about Measure H?
That's county, so that, yeah.
That's covered
happens.
under the county.
Under county, yeah.
So again, if the city were to, if the sales tax rate in the city were to increase from 9.5% to 10.25%, that additional 0.75% would stay in Paramount for the services I mentioned just a little while ago. If we don't increase the sales tax in Paramount, we run the risk of these other agencies taking the remaining 0.75% for their own purposes, such as these agencies that you see here. And again, that's Metro, South Coast AQMD, and the County of Los Angeles. And as you know, they've done this over the years with measures such as Measure R and Measure M for transportation improvements, and there are rumors that they're planning to do something similar again. So if these other agencies increase the sales tax for themselves, the sales tax in Paramount would increase to 10.25%. But the thing is, all of the additional money wouldn't stay in Paramount. So we would be taxed more, but not get the full benefit. And just to be clear, I'll say that one more time. People who spend money in Paramount would be taxed more, but the city would not receive the full benefit of the tax revenue. And we've already seen this happen, and here's an example of that. So the example is, you may remember back in 2017, the county had a measure, Measure H, which was to help fund homelessness programs. Now, we all recognize that Measure H was for a good cause. Homelessness is a rampant problem throughout the country. We certainly see those problems here in our town. And since July of 2017, when this went into effect and we started contributing towards this sales tax revenue for Measure H, we've contributed about $3.5 million. But since that time, we've only received about $26,000. So you see the disparity there. $3.5 million in and only $26,000 back. So whatever that percentage is, it's pretty small. And that's a situation that we're trying to avoid here. We, again, want to ensure that if there is a tax increase, that additional revenue stays here in Paramount.
That $3.5 million was specifically from Paramount. We've
Correct.
paid in the $3.5 million.
That's correct. Now, as you can see from this table, several cities have already passed sales tax increases, and this added revenues for the city of Santa Fe Springs, Compton, Long Beach, Linwood, Southgate, and Downey, and all of that revenue stays within those cities for their local programs. You can also see that there are several cities that have not passed a sales tax measure, including Paramount, Downey, Bellflower, Cerritos, Lakewood, Bellflower, Cerritos, Lakewood, and Norwalk. But like Paramount, these cities are also looking at a sales tax increase for their city. So a point I want to make is that we're not bringing this proposal forward because it's what everyone else is doing. The point is that when Paramount residents shop in these other cities, they're already paying this higher sales tax rate. So we believe the proposed sales tax measure amounts to a good decision for the city to keep the tax revenue generated in Paramount here in Paramount for our own benefit. So if the measure is put on the ballot and if it passes, All the funds would be dedicated for sole use in Paramount by law. None of this money can be rated and taken by the state or the county. We would ensure that there is a financial audit of this new revenue to guarantee to the public that we're using the money properly. And just something else to keep in mind when it comes to sales tax does not apply to all consumer goods. So, for example, groceries are not subject to sales tax, but other durable goods, clothes, things like that, some restaurant meals are subject to sales tax. So as John mentioned, back in May, the city conducted a poll to see what the public's appetite was for a sales tax measure. And rather surprisingly, it showed that 77% of registered voters would support such a sales tax measure. Now, for such a sales tax measure, the 77% is rather eye-opening when you consider the fact that all that's necessary to pass such a measure is a 50% plus one approval. And so, again, this 77% rate or response is very, very encouraging. But we didn't want to just rely on this 77%. We wanted to hear directly from our residents, and that's why this focus group was formed. We wanted to take input from key stakeholders in the community, folks that are very involved with the city's process, folks that understand what the city does and how we operate. So when we met with them, we got this input. We got a lot of input that John will go over. And in the end, at the end of the meeting, we asked the group, based on the information that we just presented to you, the same information that you're seeing now, would you recommend to the city council that they approve a measure to increase sales tax for the March 2020 election? And the unanimous response that we received from the group, and there were 10 people that showed up to our meeting, was yes, they would recommend that for the city council. So with that, I'll turn it back over to John, and he'll go over some of the input that we received from the focus group.
Great, thank you, Kevin. Before I talk about the focus group, just one point of clarification as well for the Measure H grant that we received for $25,000. Just full transparency here, we did apply for another grant from the county for Measure H. We've been informed that we did receive it, but we haven't gotten any formal paperwork yet. So that grant is $150,000, Adriana Lopez?
$154,000.
$154,000. So still, if you look at that chart, it's not going up by much. It's $25,000 now, and it'll go up to by $154,000. But so I just wanted to explain that to you, just in case you see that little graph go up a little bit more. So, so anyway, about the focus group. When we formed this focus group, we wanted to get several sectors of the community involved to give us feedback. So we started off with the residential part of the community. We reached out to the commissioners. We reached out to each chair of the commissions, and we have 6 commissions: Planning, Public Safety, Parks and Rec, Public Works, Senior Services Commission, and Youth Commission. So you see there the commissioners that were able to make it with us: Roy Gillum, Russ Hansen, Moses Huerta, and Jaylene Martinez from the Youth Commission there. Then we looked at, we want to hear from the business community as well, what they thought of this. So we, of course, reached out to the chamber, and we had Ben Berg, the president from the chamber there, as well as the executive director, Ms. Barbara Krausen. We also wanted to hear from the clergy, because they're a very influential part of the community too. Many residents here in town attend church. So we reached out to 3 of the most involved churches, Emmanuel Reform, and also we reached out to Pastor Larry Jameson, and also to Grady Jones from New Commandment. and we were able to have Grady Jones join us. Lastly, we reached out to the volunteer groups in town, Rotary, Lions Club, Women's Club, Topeka, and so on. So we had a few members there, Mr. John Berg from Rotary, Ms. Velma Cuellar-Stallings from Topeka Sister City, and as well as Ms. Jean Williams from the Women's Club. So we thought we had a pretty good cross-section of the community participating in that. So as I mentioned earlier, we started off the session with where do you think we are going? What things do we do well? And these are what they told us. They love the aesthetics and the modernization of the city. They like the attractive landscaping and infrastructure. They really like how we maintain the medians and how we're converting them to drought-tolerant landscaping. So basically, the cityscape is in good shape. They love the new restaurants. They love the choices that were brought to town most recently. And also the housing that's being developed. They pointed out that the quality of housing that we're attracting and that we're bringing is very, very nice. The new businesses, they said that they're very surprised about the hominess of Paramount and the attractiveness of the city. Another couple members mentioned the educational and the college culture that we're trying to promote. They mentioned the free, when I explained to them the transportation program that we developed and how we're giving college students free rides to college. They thought that was great, that promoting that is wonderful. Some mentioned that they love the business-friendly climate, that once again, it's a good place to do business. We didn't get any negative thoughts. We pushed them and we asked them, okay, so what is it that we're doing wrong? How can we improve? And we didn't hear anything from them on that regard. So as far as the feedback, what we got, the most powerful message in the presentation that they told us was that the tax revenue to other agencies wouldn't stay local. And they pointed specifically to the chart that you all saw about the Measure H grant. They said that was the most telling item that we presented to them, that if you don't do it, that another agency could come and take it away. That was their biggest thing, that they wanted to keep tax revenues local. They also had some questions about the survey response poll that was conducted by a consultant. They thought that was dramatically high, as we all did when we had the consultant up here presenting that to you in May. So they wanted details about that, so we provided that to them. They wanted to make sure that the residents really saw the results from the higher taxes. In other words, if I'm paying for taxes, I want to see that going to a good cause. What am I getting for my money that I'm paying? They also had questions about the current city sales tax revenue, how much sales tax the increase would generate, and as we showed you earlier, it was $3 to $4 million. So they had some questions. They really posed it. The meeting itself went on for about 2.5 hours, and as Kevin mentioned, at the end of the focus group, they really recommended that the council approve this, and they said that the council should put the sales tax measure on the ballot for March 2020 for the voters to decide. So with that, just also to note before I go into the next steps, we did have employee meetings yesterday. We met with them and we gave them the same presentation that you just saw, just to get the feedback from them. And they had some questions, but they seemed to understand the situation that we're in and how we're planning to try and get out of it. They were very appreciative of the presentation, and we told them, look, many times you're the first point of contact. It's important for them to know what's going on as employees of the city. They're the eyes and ears out there. They may have a resident approach them about it if the council decides to put this on the ballot. When that time comes, they may have somebody approach them and ask them the question. So our job is to educate them and make sure that they are fully aware of it. So as far as the timeline goes, we're obviously reviewing the input from the focus group tonight with you. Then in November, we're going to come to you with the request that you consider putting the sales tax for the March 2020 ballot, and that would include ordinances and resolutions, that we will work with our city attorney on to present that to you. We have hired a communications consulting firm that helped us develop this presentation, and he's helping us with developing public education campaign as well. We are looking at doing a mailer we're developing it right now, which kind of gives, which will go out to all the registered voters and explain the city financial situation that we're currently in, and we want to get additional feedback as well. So we want to get as much feedback as we can in addition to the scientific poll that we had in May. If the council once again decides to put it on the ballot, we will conduct presentations to service groups, commissions, maybe town halls. We'll put out messaging on social media, conduct flyers, and it would be solely a public information campaign. We cannot campaign for the measure at all, obviously, but we will putting out public information about what, if approved by voters, where the money would go to, for example. That would be some of the information that we would put out there. And then once again, if the council decides in November to put it on the ballot, the election would be in March 3rd of 2020. And with that, we do have Dr. Richard Bernard in the audience who did the poll for us. We asked him to come back just in case the council had questions about the poll that was presented to you back in May. And that concludes our presentation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions before we have a speaker?
I don't know if we could ask the speaker or if, John, what I heard was 77% of registered voters voted or said that they would want an increase. So that means you asked about 17,000 people said they would?
No, this survey was 400, and if I could ask Dr. Bernard to come up.
Okay, because I thought I heard 77% of registered voters is what I heard.
Good evening.
Hi.
Thank you for inviting me to speak. So just to remind you, the survey in total was among 392 random sample of likely November 2020 voters, and a subsample of them, which are 275, are likely to vote in a March 2020 election. As I'm sure you can appreciate, there will be less people voting in a primary March election than there will be in the general election when the president, when the election for president will be on the ballot. So it was 275, but statistically, they represent those people who are voting in March, and 77% of respondents said they would be willing to vote yes on the measure if it was in March.
Okay, I just wanted to get the numbers straight because I thought, wow, 77% of registered voters, that's a lot of people that you contacted and did surveys with.
Right.
So that 17,000 or so, the difference is quite a bit from just 275 people.
Actually, we anticipate there will be about 8,000 approximate voters who will vote, cast a ballot in the March 2020 election. It won't be all registered voters. So it was best that we model a March 2020 electorate rather than ask all voters. I'm sure you can appreciate not all registered voters vote.
No, and I just wanted to get the numbers correct.
Sure, no, it's a great question.
And I think what we projected is more than 8,000 voters will come out for a primary election in March, just based on past presidential elections. But I'm not going to argue that point. I'm just saying, I just wanted the number.
Sure,
it was
sure.
275.
Sure.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Just really quickly, is it, the public educations are they going to be bilingual, Spanish and English?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And I'm just curious for my education, how did you come up with the $3 to $4 million deficit by 2025?
We can turn that over to Karina.
We actually had a big spreadsheets that, including revenue with the inflation amount and also all the expenditures with anticipated increase over the 5 years, and we came up with $3 to $4 million deficit in 5 years.
And when was that conducted, Karina? When did you?
We just did it recently, yeah.
So nothing had been done prior to that to project what our deficits would be looking like?
We did. We have been. In fact, that's part of the presentation that John and Kevin mentioned. Over the years, we've been tightening our belt. We've been making our operation more efficient. We knew this was coming. And back in 2015, we did a UUT that temporarily helped us through the insufficient funds that we have. It comes to a point that perhaps in 5 years, if we don't do something, we'll be in real deficit. We'll call it structural deficit at that point. And we also look at some of the measures has been coming in, have been approved by the voters, then Paramount is not benefiting locally. So all these factors, have come to a point now that we're recommending this sales tax measure.
Right. It's just a little concerning that we're going to go into a deficit of possibly $3 to $4 million. So, and that's been anticipated for quite some time. So it just seems to me that we need Plan B. What if this doesn't pass? And so those are things that we need to be looking at as a city, and how did we get to this point? I know we had millions cut from those funds, but in anticipation of that, what other things have we been, doing to bring in big funds?
Mr. Mayor, if I just may, just for clarity, because of the new members, it's something that regularly gets brought to us every time the budget does, and there have been things on an ongoing basis to try to deal with it. You're always hoping that you can up your revenue source in some way, but as you saw in some of the presentation, we've made cuts to employees. We've had them pitch in on insurance. We just recently had the pension. I'm sure there's a half a dozen more things over the years. Every time that was brought us, we looked at events, when we had the RDA fund. So they're always projecting, and we're always trying to keep up with it before we take the last measure of having to go to the residents and tax. So we feel like we've kind of tapped out what we can do at a city level, and that's why we're going to the taxpayers. But in confidence in Karina all along, we need to make this cut, we need to make this cut, we need to make this cut. And then we're always trying to bring in more sales tax producing revenue to help it and balance it out. So it's an ongoing process that will continue for you guys too as you move on. You're going to hear every year where we're at. And hopefully one year, we had times where we had projected surpluses and things were good and we didn't have to do anything. And then there's times when it goes the other way. But it's always a constant projection a few years out, and we've been making cuts all along till we got to this point.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I might as well.
Yes.
In addition to that, so while the sales tax increase could be very helpful to us, we're not simply relying on that. That's why our economic development program is so important to us. We're constantly looking for new ways to bring in new businesses, as well as to retain the businesses that we have. So that's an important component in all of this that we're doing. It's not just one revenue source that we're looking at. There's other ways that we're looking to bring in revenue as well.
Okay. We had a speaker too on this?
We do.
Item?
Yes, Ms. Trish Belrose. Ms. Belrose?
Evening, City Council. I made all of my comments before I got to see the presentation, so I'm kind of going to just throw this out the window. I congratulate you guys for the work that you've done. I have a background in market research, so I know how hard it is to complete a survey. I wouldn't call what you did a focus group. I think that's really misnaming what you did. What you really did was an advisory board of the leadership, significant leadership within the community. And if this focus group would not have you facilitating, you would have somebody who was not there, because you could technically put in biased towards putting in the going forward with a tax. I'm glad that the tax is going to be put to the ballot so that despite any bias that might have occurred in the research focus, the survey that did the 275 people, or your advisory board meeting,
it's going to get put to the voters, and they will be the ones that get to decide. And I think it's going to cost the city money to put that on the ballot. It isn't for free. So we want to make sure that we are sure this is going to pass. My biggest thing, though, is that we need to make sure that there's a plan for how the money is going to be spent. And I think we need to really be concrete and specific. I saw a lot of really great things on that slide about how we would use the money. But I think it's really important that we have a plan in place so that it doesn't just go to padding the general fund or what else, doing things, paying the city employees, severance packages and what have you. I just think it's really important. And I think this communication campaign that you're planning to do in conjunction with the ballot initiative are really, really, really important. It's unfortunate that we live in the times that we do, that the money that is generated here, the sales tax that's generated here doesn't get to stay in the city. That bothers me. It really does. And I think that it's really important that we stay on top of this economic development program. We put a lot of money in the budget. I was here for the budget planning. We put people on that program, and I want to see more as a resident of the city, especially in light of this tax, how we are trying to generate more sales revenue so that, in a year or 2 years from now, we're not saying, okay, well, it's going from 3/4 to 2% or whatever it is. So that's really all I had to say.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further comments? We're done? Okay, that's just a
I do. I have one further comment. I think that would be really helpful in the public communication that we're going to do, is that if we could have a specific guide, because I didn't do an independent study of a lot of people, but a lot of people have come to me with their concerns, and it's about public safety. So if we could say that whatever portion of these funds under an audit, I heard you mention an audit of how these funds are going to be spent, if it would go to public safety and then pick maybe our parks. Somebody said our parks are used so much, they're looking a little run down. So if this money specifically could be targeting public safety and our parks, or have a game plan for these additional funds coming in, it would be a much greater sell than just saying it's going into the general fund. I just feel like the temperament is that's just too much leeway for the city. But if they know specifically it's for public safety, we've had homicides in the park, somebody who OD'd. There's a lot of issues that if we say, hey, this is going specifically for quality of life issues, I think we'd have a better chance of getting it passed. Just my 2 cents.
Okay. Item number 14, resolution number 19.038, reappointing a member and alternates to the Los Angeles Gateway Region Integrated Regional Water Management Joint Powers Authority Governing Board. Long thing.
Yes, it is a long thing, Mr. Mayor. Adriana Figueroa, our Public Works Director, will handle this item. Adriana?
Thank you, John. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, as you know, the City of Paramount is one of the founding members of and I'm going to say it again, Los Angeles Gateway Region Integrated Regional Water Management Joint Powers Authority, also known as the Gateway Water Management Authority for short, or just simply GWMA. This JPA was established for the purposes of addressing water resource needs, primarily through Prop 84 and Prop 1 funding. GWMA has also been the fiduciary agency for all stormwater-related watershed groups within the Gateway region. GWMA is a technical group made up of staff from most Gateway cities, as well as staff members from regional water agencies and the Port of Long Beach. Typically, the representative is the city's Public Works Director or equivalent. I myself serve as the city's designated board member, and I'm also the vice chair of the GWMA Board of Directors. Sarah Ho, our Assistant Public Works Director, and Wendy Macias, our Public Works Manager, are currently the appointed alternates representing Paramount. Board members and alternates are appointed by their respective legislative bodies, and these appointments are generally made every 2 years on odd number years. As such, all current terms expired on September 30th. At their September 12 board meeting, GWMA approved an automatic renewal process for appointment of board members that will begin with the October 2019 appointments. This will make it easier for agencies that rarely change their representation. However, of course, member agencies will always have the option to change their appointment at any time, and that would be done via resolution. So attached for your review and approval is resolution number 19038, reappointing myself as the primary board member, as well as Sarah Ho and Wendy Macias as our alternate board members. That concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions?
Move the item.
Second.
Two beat who this time?
Give it to Sarah.
Moved by Lemon, second by Hoffmeyer to read by title only and adopt resolution number 19.038. We have roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian,
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons.
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer.
Yes.
Mayor Hansen.
Yes. Congratulations on your reappointment, I guess we should say, huh? Okay. Comments, committee reports, council members.
My end again?
Oh, was it that?
Start on this side?
Okay, we'll start over here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended my monthly SIACA meeting, and one of the best pieces of information and news that came out of it was the adoption day that they held. They had 67 pets adopted in one day, which is a record for them. So it was very successful. And I hope lots of people got to attend the pet fair that we had here at Paramount Park and got the discount, vaccinations and services that they were offering. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Vice Mayor?
I just want to say I attended the Paramount football game again, and Paramount's
Yes,
doing
we
great. They start league this week, and I hope we see a lot of people out there for Paramount. We had a great crowd here last week at that Paramount game, and wasn't a very good game, but Paramount won big. So, and I think I have a JPIA conference coming up in next week, I think, along with Kevin and John.
Okay.
All right. Actually, I was actually able to attend the Pitch in Paramount on the 21st, a couple Saturdays ago. I thought we were going to pick up trash, but we ended up painting the fence on Alondra Boulevard, so that was kind of nice. I think there was 100 of us that volunteered. But actually that day, Michael McCohen was actually recognized by the Speaker Rendon for his service to the community. And actually when Mike accepted his award, he actually said that he could not do this without the city of Paramount. So I thought that was very important that he said that. There's a big collaboration, but it was nice to see Mike get recognized. So if you're seeing Mike, congratulations. The other thing is that me and Councilmember Guillen attended the mayor breakfast with Mayor Garcetti in Pasadena. I think she's going to speak on it, but the 3 points that I took away is that he's focusing on education, public safety, and transportation. So more to come on city managers for that. He said he's going to be sharing some information with you guys. Third thing I wanted to talk about was I attended the senior legislative luncheon that was held by Speaker Rendon. It was the first luncheon that he actually was, that he did. And I was actually honored to be the MC for that event. But I just think it was such a great event. It was very informative for the senior citizens. They learned about scams. They learned about like preventative, like what to do in a disaster. So there was really good topics that he brought to the seniors. I think there was over 350 seniors that attended that event from various cities, the districts which he is over. And again, I just think it was really great that he chose the city of Paramount to host it. And thanks to Magda, and she worked really hard that day. She was all over the place. And one thing I do have for you, John, that I did hear from the residents, in regards to the donuts, I think some of the things that have been happening, the residents are asking if there's a way that we can remove some of those skid marks that are on the streets. Is that possible?
Look at that.
It kind of looks like when you come into our city.
I don't know if you can power wash those off, or we can. We'll look into that.
Take a look. I think because people come to the city, they're like, "Oh, what happened there?" And you have to kind of
pretty
explain. But
evident,
yeah,
Leaves an impression.
that's all I have.
Okay, I'll make it quick. Attended a women's club tea, and I just want to say that the women's club is looking for new membership from Paramount residents. Our actual Paramount residents is pretty low. I attended the Country Club Townhome Neighborhood Watch meetings off of Downey and Alberg, and I just want to say Steve did a really good job facilitating the Neighborhood Watch. The residents were really happy to have us there, and they expressed all their concerns, which were passed on to John. With Brenda, I attended the Mayor and Council Forum Conference about strategic planning, including transportation, environment, infrastructure. One of the things that they hit on was our earthquake preparedness, and I just think it's pretty cool that we are right in line with our certification, you know, for an emergency within our communities, that we are already in the process of bringing everybody up to par on that. And then I had the opportunity to visit the new and remodeled Starbucks on Alondra. They're in full swing. There were already a line of cars getting their coffee, so that looks like that's going to be a really good location for them. Want to remind everybody, tomorrow night there's a neighborhood watch on Jefferson and Fairlock, and they also have a lot of those racing issues and the donuts. And then I just wanted to give a shout out to a little skater here in Paramount, Abril Sanchez. Like I said, she competed in Pasadena at the ice skating center, and she competed with girls all over the different cities along Southern California, and she took 4th place representing Paramount. Really, really proud of her. Last, maybe we could get an update on some of the issues that have been occurring at Paramount High School. I've gotten a lot of phone calls and concern, and maybe if we could get an update about what we're doing to make sure that our students are safe. I know that's a Paramount Unified School District issue, but because they're calling me as a council member, I also want to just mention that I do take the public concerns very to heart. And I think, last, my grandson he's 2 years old, and he was put in the hospital for pneumonia, and he's had a respiratory issue. And from what I understand, he's fine now. We're all exhausted, but he's fine. You need to make sure that if you have a deep cough and it's bronchitis, get it checked, because there's like this really dangerous strain of pneumonia going around. And I just want our young and our elderly, don't take these coughs lightly. Go get a chest x-ray, because it can put you in the hospital. And that's it.
Thanks. Last week, I attended, along with Councilmember Olmos, the Kindred Hospital open house, which was very nice, and we got a lot of great comments. Actually, I think it was the CEO that I was talking with afterwards, and he had all kind of questions about Paramount, and actually complimented everybody in the city, the staff. I think they came from Kentucky, was it, Doug?
Right.
Back east.
Yeah, Kentucky. Well, that's back east, kinda. Very, very impressed with our building departments and so on and so forth. Everyone that he worked with, he said it was one of the best cities he's ever worked with. So that makes us all feel good when that happens. Other than that, that's about it. Next week is a mosquito meeting, so I might have something at the next meeting about where they're at now, too. I haven't got that agenda yet.
It's getting cold, maybe the mosquitoes
They'll
will
start to go away. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Watch the standing water. Staff, any comments?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Guillen mentioned the CERT program. It was kind of exciting for the CERT team that went through the training, the 3-day training. They took a tour of both the Lakewood station and the Paramount station. So they got to really see what's it like behind the scenes, and they heard calls coming in and the dispatchers taking the calls and so on. So that was pretty entertaining for them. Just real quick, about almost a year ago, maybe 10 months ago, the city council mentioned that we got to do something about litter. Litter's getting out of control. People are throwing things out of their cars and leaving stuff everywhere. So you may have noticed these have gone up now. We've put up 178 of these signs around town, encouraging people, well, telling people if you do it, you could be fined this amount of money here. Throughout the city. So this is something that we're hoping that people will kind of get the message here that we do take this seriously. In addition to that, we've installed 12 trash cans, 12 new Boulevard trash cans around town to address the littering. We're in the middle of editing a video that our social media team shot about littering. So I hope to have that at the next council meeting for you to review. And then in next month's Around Town and Pulse Beat, we'll also have information about anti-littering. So we're really going full board. We heard you loud and clear that was one of your concerns about the city. So we're trying to address it. And again, when we presented this program to you, we're doing it in 3 phases. So we're still in phase 1. We'll start phase 2 very soon. So and that's it.
I love the slogan, "Pick it up, Paramount." I
You
think
like
that's
that?
really fun.
Yeah.
A
Yeah,
lot
it
better
is.
than when we were kids, and it was,
Picked up a
"Don't
bunch
be a
today.
litter bug," right?
Or give a
Remember
hoot,
that?
don't
Some of
pollute.
you that are over 50.
That's it?
Mr. Mayor, before we adjourn, can I request that we adjourn this meeting in Mr. Valenzuela's name? He's actually been a resident here for quite some time, passed away a couple weeks ago. Big family here in Paramount, so if we could request it for Mr. Valenzuela.
This meeting is then adjourned in his name. We'll meet again on October 15th at 5 o'clock. We'll call to order the successor agency for the Paramount Redevelopment Agency. We have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Gian,
Here.
Councilmember Lemons.
Here.
Councilmember Olmos.
Here.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer.
Here.
Mayor Hansen.
Here. Public comments?
No, sir.
Consent calendar?
Move it.
Second?
Moved by Hoffmeyer, seconded by Lemons to approve the consent calendar. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Gian.
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons.
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hoffmeyer.
Yes.
Mayor Hansen.
Yes, then this meeting is adjourned until November 5th at 6 PM.